So this is the uh, the first of January 2026. This is thinking to the first of so this is the 21st of March 2026. The time now is 5:46 p.m. And I'm thinking, what do I mean? So let me get back. This basically is the the body care system for the live machine gun protocol. The live gun framework is defined as the placeman, wingman, and light gun. A three-person platoon of standby. Primarily, it is used for anti-personnel anti-personnel to anti-personnel to personnel. Uh, Basically, uh, I'm trying to really formulate this properly. But let me just get something sorted out first. Let me get my screen up here. So, so we got the OBNXS NQ2 battery, which I've locked down OBNXS.org, but I've still got my work here. So if I go to start, my start, so it's good that I'm still locking. So, but this is so breathing without living. This stuff. This is but it's NSIGII philosophy. So I'm just done those for so yes. This is the human rights protocol, and you get NSIGII not a toy, not a weapon. Yeah, NSIGII not a weapon. M for Vendor, S for Step, I for Indigo, G for Gold, I for India, I for India. Not a weapon is uh, the human rights protocol of food, water, and shelter. Separation concern between the NSIGII uh, not a toy and as a toy. You see a toy weapon. Not a toy implies it's a weapon. Not a weapon implies it's a toy and can be played with like food, water, shelter. But it's not. It's pretty clear between what is needed and what is wanted. Not necessarily you can play with food because it's not dangerous. Ziggy is not a weapon. It's a human right for non-weapon. You get biology sustainable for it allows tactical defense alliance assembly for addressing problems via the motto being for the Eastern European Jamaican to evolve is to endure. To evolve is to endure is a motto. And to evolve is to endure is resilient defense systems through biological sustainable for people that survive. This is to survive people that need food on the shelf and to mitigate the still collapse in the environment. This repository is one of the repositories I made via conversation. But today I want to focus on the body pen system instead. Listen to speaking not to weapon is if we get a look at it, we get a look at it, try to get a look at it. Speaking LTE focus down. Speaking is human rights protocol, and the protocol is for here and now, there and there, one way. Of civil collapse. Civil collapse is the struggle was the really efficient collapse. And collapse is the relationship of services and stuff. Basically, the protocol, the whole thing together. You know, it's a human rights, the humans to humans. It's ontological Bayesian intelligence. This AI system it can sustain. Uh, you can I get this in this code? 1 second. We can try prolong again, pro, really, so this is one second. Okay, yeah, so yeah, you get my I'm offline now, okay, but you get the life work balance of friendly place worker. This is linked a lot of drawings that I did with my research work, but basically the goal of this is to try to build this stuff. But this is the sticky not a weapon. A weapon is something that can harm you, damage you, or kill you. But everything that can use a weapon, something stops you using a weapon. Everything can go through a process too. So the sticky not a weapon is literally the survival protocol for humanitarian involved in the Jeffrey or the Eastern Security Network. The repository is uh, not a weapon, it's sticky not a weapon. And the not weapon is a development program for biological sustainability based on who is who is actually informed, who is fighting. The good my constitution, we could like between people collapse, sticking the forces of these protocols into the firmware logic to operate system. It allows you to interact with the drones, drone delivery, services, taking food and shelter, you know, via humanitarian aid. So, because breathing without living is suffering. Uh, breathing without breathing is suffering. The whole thing. But just switch to consciousness from way. You don't think you're living life. And everyone says you're suffering, you're doing nothing. When you're idle, stop suffering. If you mean idle, you can stop suffering. Just get up. Yeah. So it's really- so you have think so this is turtle, this is a butterfly, and this is some work, but this is a work and this is like a thing called logo. So breed does not mean fly. The turtle, this is the market. But now it's the market get it. But this is a general free turtle too. So you can have kind of structure here. But this is not done. This is gonna be changed later. But it's a thing called the PNG, but it's just a two wings to overlapping. This is but this is a logo for taking the tactical defense. So, but this is the tactical defense assembly. Assembly of people who are, you know, I feel like I don't know, but no, like, basically, in warfare, I'm trying to stop suffering by putting my protocol uh, uh, into the firmware. And the firmware is going to be the physical hardware that runs the firmware. The I kind of code on the chip of the stick. So when I make the chip, read if I get this chip, that's what information goes to the protocol. So people will be able to stop suffering. And everyone can get food and shelter. So the sticky, not a weapon, is, means it sustains the political and then the communication of the area that, for the cases of war. So you get in cases of war, because war can break up in any border any day, because we don't have a good government structure there. So it's usually far forward, a logical layer, distinctive protocol. We need via algorithm to recon but it is construction model of land basically basically war ready for digital communication and communication is a markdown. So control shift V you can open the secret not a weapon repository and you get join the clan. Basically the if you don't understand what I'm saying right now, just understand that you have you have you have sorry you have biological because you have a balanced ecosystem. An ecosystem is a place where you can work break up. So when war does break out in that ecosystem, you have two divisions. Instead of three factions, the system allows them to promote themselves into divisions, into sustainable ecosystems, local solutions that will work together to sustain themselves, no matter how many war lasts. But it's basically the principle of networking and mutuality. But today, I'm going to introduce the body system. Now, the body system is, basically for taking not a weapon, but one of the toy. So you have a shelter, and if you but if you go to toy, you have armory, exit armory, the armory. Armory represents building guns, custom weapons, all of that. But basically, ensures that the weapons being used are, are, are human rights projects, and are smart, used for 2022. I don't know what that means, but you know, see, the the for example, you have the body system, which is the leg and the front. So the pointman, wingman, that's gonna by me now. The leg and the front. And leg and the front is all the gun, the light machine gun. Something with a lot of bell rounds, some of the block rounds per minute and can shoot. So you have the body pair, the body and the pair. I can pair if I'm a leg gun, I can pair with the pointman at any time, at any job. If I'm a leg gun, I can pair also with 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 a wingman, ten points. But because it depicts the definition of the room, and the forces, the body part system shows forces collaboration, communication, cooperation, and coordination. So forces are collaboration, communication, cooperation, and coordination between the two sets of actors. The actor set is basically collaborating, working together on objectives, so a team objective. When contact is made, when a shot is fired, there's contact. When a shot is fired, one shot is fired, contact. Like you're shooting people, or shooting things. Communication, the bridge between the two layers, securing basically the single channel. Uh, cooperation, cooperating within, uh, cooperating within uh, a team to based on formation to secure, defend, or attack an objective. And coordination, the ability to move within the jurisdiction, the place you're in, with the place for to coordinate an attack or some kind of strategy. These are the four pillars of the NSIGII, not not uh, not a toy. That means implies the weapon. But this protocol is business application that should be built into the framework for point by movement like Ghana. So, so it's basically meant to stimulate emulate the war environment via the step. For this application for the battlefield coalition, you get the protocol one spec, so called chicken flight, dimensional game model. So, so let me read some of my work that I created, but I'm pretty sure the ground is solid. This basically, I think I should make this no, maybe this was no, I don't know. Purpose to acquire strategic information without detection. Information. Oh, this is thinking not. I think I'm going to mix it up, but this is thinking not toy. But okay, so because the purpose, example, espionage. The purpose to acquire strategic information without detection. The purpose of espionage is the purpose of to acquire strategic information without detection. That's espionage. Define. Mechanism include term reconnaissance, signal detection, and stable intrusion. You know, impact information informs decision making as preemptive strikes and manipulated opponent manipulate opponent behavior. But this is this is thought attack. Information warfare is like this but this is the espionage in the firmware application. It's built to serve as the firmware anything anything that the firmware is mindful of. Firmware is the system that expects something in the system that the hardware that runs the software. You but the firmware is a physical connects you to a digital digital the operating system based on having a collective of the front eyes and the digital virtual environment, which is digital virtual environment where you live. Uh, so this application is for the combat of the machine activity. Um, it's literally the protocol for protocol one taking flight that's process the purpose of mechanism based on the system of uh, so the purpose here is just one attack, but the dimension game theory. So the dimension game theory has these different dimensions, two dimensions. So you have the volume, and volume has volume is you have some kind of you have dimensions in the game. So you don't have you don't get to this one, you have a dimensional game. You have like a kind of dimension of the game dimension. A dimension is basically unified dimension in game theory. Let me see if I can find it because I have it here. Yeah, dimension game theory. Yeah. So these are people in dimension game theory. Dimension game theory. We now go to the dimension game theory. Dimension five, so stage dimension. Stage dimension D is a parameter display the categories of strategic dimension specific attributes or traits. For example, a common game dimension include defense, offense, defense, attack. Dimension strategy. A dimension strategy is a strategy that is optimized along a special dimension. The function of entity dimension the function E such that AI times D implies a real mapping that values how well the strategy performs in that dimension. Perfect game answer. Yeah, this is theorem one, the first theorem. So in a perfect game, in typically these division games are not paper on division, but this basically was used for the war. And basically, so any get more survivors, get no one gonna die. In this film, so this is a human advocacy compliance cycle policy. Human advocacy compliance cycle. Human advocacy compliance cycle. You know, unfair to the caseworker, which is basically, but it's kind of it's the top application and everything. But this is just a place document. But we'll come back later to that. But, you get if you get three types, you get individual cooperation. You have individual cooperation. What's my other one? Individual cooperation. Uh, uh, individual cooperation. Individual cooperation. Individual collaboration. Individual communication. Individual coordination. And then you get the individual platoons of sustainability, but but you get a system of body pair model. So if you can pair up to do tasks based on what is done in that system. I really think this is Insignia not where's my Insignia not I think I got it mixed up. So this is Insignia not a toy. So this is Insignia not a toy. So not a weapon will be the one but after building Insignia not a weapon, which is protocol for the but this is a repository for Insignia not a weapon, not a toy. So you get decentralized gaming networking. This is my drawing on the networking protocol. So you get a trillion topology of network infrastructure, so you never get power going down in an area. Which is still all hooked to peer-to-peer nodes is two, same. And you get so you put one the web PNG, two the web PNG, three the web PNG, four the web PNG, five the web P, six the web P different infrastructure. So see, it's basically a war tactic. It's basically thermal but you get bi-directional learning system. So you get two-way learning of the system, two-way coordination or two-way cooperation, two-way communication, and two-way coordination. But I'm talking like I don't know the same, but it's I do want same. So this is the protocol here, and the protocol is meant to ensure more sustainable. No one dies ever again in BF territory. that's not involved in the war directly or indirectly. It protects the most vulnerable people in society. And this is again not a weapon. Not a weapon. Again, not a toy. Not a toy. So if it's not a toy, it's not a weapon, it's not a weapon, it's not a toy. And that's the separation of concern between the two protocols. So, I'm talking about the body pair system today. What else do I have to add? So, the body pair system in NSIGII, basically, childhood, from childhood to adulthood, you can have a body pair of bodies. But they have to work on corporate things that they enjoy. Take the concept, kids being kids, children being children, adults being women, men being men. But the body pair system ensures communication between two or three entities at a time based on how they do their work. And once again, here, I got doesn't matter whether they are in the real world or not, in the digital world, they are allowed to be friends and be sociable. Like me, having connection between human beings. But the goal is to achieve an authentic structure system that works for those two entities, those two like biologically sustainable. This foundation of NSIGII not a toy, but find something that works for the two. Find something that works between the two light gunner or playman and a wingman and a light gunner, any conventional team, and use that as strategic advantage via dimensional game theory. So you have individual cooperation, you have platoon cooperation, and you have swarm, a group or swarm cooperation. Swarm. So you have different divisions. Different organization bodies that want to either sustain or sustain or attack or influence the status of the war. And I'm really part of this repository because I've been researching my history of Nigerian history and my Biafran war, and I'm not really doing the art no more, but I have to get back to it. Okay, Namdi. Thank you for watching this video, guys. If you like it, like it, then